Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we are going to be talking about Okoye. Now her deep dive has recently been released, as well as her full ability description. So first we're gonna take a quick look at some cutouts from the deep dive and then break her abilities down fully. Now I must say that after watching her deep dive and reading her abilities, I am somewhat interested in her more than I was initially after that quick gameplay snippet, because her damage does seem to be coming quite quick, and also it does have methods to kind of mitigate the immunities, because a lot of champions are either, you know, bleed immune or shock immune, often either or both, and quite a few champions just do not take damage from stuff like that as well, or get their abilities powered. Realistically speaking, I still strongly believe that shock is by far the weakest and the worst damage or time effect in the game. I do think that, for instance, if Black Widow Deadly Origins had Rapture debuff, she would be very popular champion in the game. It's just the fact that it's shock that's kind of holding her back, because again of how many champions are immune to it, get their abilities powered by it, have access to energy resistance, so on and so forth. So let's take a look at Okoye and kind of see what we think. So here it's quite evident that you will be able to stack up a lot of debuffs and also get a lot of buffs with Okoye. And one of the things that I will flat out say from the very big get-go, she's a champion that switches up off 4 masteries. Okay, you know, a couple of them are not really commonly used, but switching off Coagulate and Mystic Dispersion is just annoying as hell. I hate when Kabam does that. I think it is a very stupid thing that they have started doing more and more. I wish they would stop. I think it is quite demeaning to the players who are actively investing and relying on those masteries, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I don't like it in Patriot. I don't like it in all of these dusts and whatnot. And now this is, you know, they're specifically going after Mystic Dispersion. Why? They could have at least made it a bit different type of ability, where, you know, every time a buff expires, similar to Iron Man, when an opponent is like power locked for like 0.3 seconds or something, where it would effectively neuter Mystic Dispersion, but not entirely. But either way, it's just, I don't like that trend. What I do like about her, aside from obvious access to a ton of dot, is obviously the easy access to ensnare, which you trigger just by dexing. So that should be pretty much up the entire time from the very beginning. And just simply switching off Evade is very good. That's kind of like what Moleman used to do. I mean, like, he still switches off Evade, but you know what I mean. So yeah, extended dexterity. So you start with 2 ranks of dexterity mastery. Precision buffs gained from dexterity last additional time, stack up to 20, and it's going to give you a lot of crit. She's going to be critting a ton. Her crits will do basically no damage themselves, but she's going to be critting a ton. And here we go. She switches off Suture, Coagulate, Serum Science, and Mystic Dispersion. Absolutely hate that. Really dislike it. And yeah, that ensnare obviously is going to be quite good against some lesser used science champions. And this was another thing that I started kind of thinking about, like, when we're looking at science champions, which ones she would be likely the best against, and which one of the meta champions you can realistically expect her to do well against. And if you take a look at Count Nefaria, I don't think she's going to do too great, I'm not going to lie. Maybe, but Count Nefaria being... one second. Immunity to partial bleed effects, shock and incinerate resistance. So, Count Nefaria being one of the more common science champions around. Completely bleed immune, 90% immune to shock. Then we have the Thing, completely immune to bleed and shock. And then we have, let's say, where's the Photon at? Immune to bleed, has quite high energy resistance, and Coagulate will screw with her as well. So those would be kind of like the more common science defenders, right? It doesn't scream like the design made to succeed to me initially. I do think for a skill champion, she might have a quite good kind of relationship to other classes. I think she could be able to counter some of the Mystic champions, for instance, and some other class defenders. But we're gonna have to really take a look at her, matchups, because that ultimately decides whether a champion is good addition to the game. And so far, top of my head, don't quite like it, because obviously there's no bleed immunity. So that's, not going to be great against Bullseye. Even though you can prevent the wade, you're still going to be taking damage. There's nothing stopping you. Nothing helping you against Serpent. Obviously against Onslaught, that would be immediate suicide in between all of those shocks. Enchantress, probably, possibly, switch off MD. Could be decent. Other than Enchantress, I wonder which ones of the top defenders she would be suited for. I don't see too many. Right. Debuffs and critical damage multiplier. So instead of increasing critical damage, Okoye's critical damage multiplier grants increased debuff duration, excluding stun. Fair enough. Dodging an attack inflicts with a non-stacking ensnare debuff for 12/18 seconds. Why is there such a difference? But okay. Critical hits inflict bleed and shock, dealing X amount of direct damage over 4.5 seconds. Each time an immunity prevents a bleed or shock debuff, refresh, bleed, and refresh for bleed and shock debuffs. So that's there to protect you against the partial immunities. Like if opponents bleed immune, you can still apply shocks, and you're going to be maintaining more of them, easier, kind of making up for the lost bleed damage. So I do like that, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to kind of maintain equal level of damage output. And yeah, specials on heavy attacks. The first hit is a guaranteed critical hit. Critical hits pause all buffs on Okoye and debuffs on the opponent for 1.5 seconds. And then special attack 3, you're never going to really want to use that. Obviously, she benefits from max deep wounds and extends that benefit to shock as well. And that is her Awaken ability, where she automatically starts with 3 ranks in deep wounds. She can also go beyond the mastery limits. So while Okoye's health points are lower than her opponents, all endurance and precision buffs expire 45% slower. I think this is also a quite bad ability in generic situation, because you just about always want your health to be higher than your opponent's. And despite all of that, her damage does look great. There's just no denying it. You can tell that this Hulk is quite beefy, and she's taking him down fast. In the deep dive as well, they used clips against Labyrinth of Legends, Red Hulk, which is like 1.5 million health, and she was taking him down very quick. Another thing that I'm not necessarily a fan of will be the necessity to punish opponents' heavies or specials with a heavy of your own. I have never liked that mechanic. It doesn't necessarily feel overly natural to me, and that kind of depends also on heavy animation, but I wish it wasn't there. But still, she will be good against waders, fair enough. But will she be good against Shrug of champions though? Which is kind of like what a lot of skill champions do these days too. Still quite a lot of questions from me for Okoye. Yeah, after watching the deep dive, reading her abilities initially, I was kind of more hyped for her. Now that I am breaking her down more and more, I get more and more worried, really. I do like this. 1.5 in survivability. Her, block proficiency is decent, but there's just nothing else really going on. 4.5 in damage and 4.5 in ease of use. So simple to use. Largely just spam your level 2s and use your heavies to punish. So utility 3.5, debatable. Defender strength non-existent. So strengths, rapid combo meter gain, combo shield. This is where I kind of started feeling we might be in trouble. Combo shield and rapid combo meter gain is such a situational thing. It's borderline like saying that, you know, buffed sentry is good in incursions. It's like, nobody cares. Like, you don't really rely on this. Like, how many champions are there that and how often are the cases where you kind of like, oh yeah, I gain combo quicker? You know, 99.9% of the time, that doesn't matter. There's like Void that she's going to be good against, but then again, you know, Void can be taken with just about any class champion without much issue. So, high debuff damage and frequent critical hits. Kind of establish that. Quick access to vital utility. I love that. I wish more champions would have something like that. I think it's very cool. Weakness, high number of buffs and debuffs. While Okoye can deal with the Mystic Dispersion Mastery, the other effects which punish the activation of buffs or find frequent activation in fights with Okoye, likewise most of her damage tied to shock and or bleed debuffs, Okoye will struggle where she can't rely on either. And low survivability. Fair enough. So we went over the enhanced dexterity, where she starts the fight with 15 dexterity buffs. Then you get 2 for each medium, you get 3 whenever you dex, and then you can pause them while you activate your wishes, which is when you get over 50 combo meter, and then you consume your combo meter with your heavies to refresh your debuffs, and when wishes expires, you lose your combo meter. So mastery bonus ranks above max, discuss this. As a mastery ranks, Okoye gains stack with any ranks already invested and can increase a mastery beyond its max limit. For each rank above a max, benefits with switching up other masteries, which I absolutely hate. So, debuff and critical damage multiplier, discuss that. Combo shield and combo meter. Okoye starts each fight with an indefinite combo shield passive. Light attacks grant +1 combo meter per hit. When Okoye's combo meter reaches 50, gain a 60% wishes passive for 20 seconds, which can't re-trigger while active. While this wishes is active, pause all precision buffs on Okoye. When this wishes ends, Okoye's combo meter is lost. So this is like where significant damage boost to you is going to come, thanks to that 60% wishes passive and your dots doing significantly more damage. Heavy attack, combo meter plus 30 plus. The final hit consumes 20, and you can re-inflict up to 10 personal bleed or shock debuffs on the opponent. Refreshing them. Special on heavy attacks, read that. Special attack 1 on activation, gain non-stacking 60% endurance buff for 14 seconds. While active, each time debuff on Okoye expires, gain +2 combo meter and 2 dexterity precision buffs. Now that is quite helpful. There is a glossary that we can double check what endurance actually does. So if we go to the news, I like that Kabam added this glossary, by the way. And we're gonna look for endurance. Energize endurance. While active, reduce the duration of new non-damaging debuffs on the affected champion by given potency. What is her potency? 60%. So you let... I don't think it's gonna be... Okay. Critical hits inflict an additional bleed and shock debuff on level 2. Non-critical hits inflict 1 bleed and shock debuff. Fair enough. Special attack 3. For every 10% max health the opponent's missing, this attack gains 1200 attack rating, and the opponent passively suffers -10% ability accuracy. That's a bit random to throw in there. Signature ability, top tier ornaments grant 3 ranks of deep wounds mastery, which is also extended to shock debuffs and instant shocks. While Okoye's health is lower than her opponent's, all endurance and precision buffs expire up to 40% slower. Synergy bonuses, there are some decent ones, and allows Shuri and other Wakandan related characters. Also somebody like Valkyrie, Medusa, and Heimdall. Nothing too crazy though, I'd say. So that's Okoye. She looks like the type of champion that I'd want to use and mess around with for fun in some situations. If she is fast and nukey enough, she might be popular. But again, if we go to the Konchuzank and we just check out, the potential biggest defensive threats, would she be good against her own? Korg? No. Shock and bleed immune. That just immediately falls off. Somebody like Kingpin, he would convert all her debuffs into this super rage overpower. Killmonger, instant power gain. Nothing really doing too great against the Tuma either, because it's not non-contact. Against Bullseye, you'll stop away and you can take damage. So I'd say no against skill meta defenders. Tech meta defenders. Red Skull? Yeah, possibly. She might be a decent Red Skull counter. Why not? Then who else do we have here that we see quite frequently on defense? Fam. He's going to regen a lot, but then again, you're going to despair it. It's going to expire. She might be decent against Fam too. I think actually, kind of ironically, I think she might be, better against some of the tech champs here. But then again, there aren't that many meta defenders. Against mutants, obviously, she doesn't necessarily have to be good, and she won't be largely, you're not going to be able to do. It's good. It will be suicide fighting Bullseye, Havoc, Onslaught immediately. And then obviously somebody like Domino, she doesn't have any extra ability against either. I already went over Science Champions. Don't think she would be great against Thing. Don't think she's going to be great against Photon. Don't think. Yeah. So that doesn't look good. Against Mystic Class, I think she could potentially be quite good against some of the defenders here. Like, Sasquatches and Rintras and stuff. Because you switch off Mystic. Again, Neutralize would mess with her. Even though there's no Mystic Dispersion, like Nullifies and Neutralizes could mess with her. So she would be decent against some of the Mystic Defenders, I'd say. And Cosmic Class, well, she's not going to be good against Serpent. And there aren't that many more Cosmic Defenders, but, might be okay. So, I'm quite skeptical about her meta relevance. I do think we're going to see a lot of hype as she gets released, but I don't think it will last at the moment. That said, again, do not draw any final conclusions of the champions up until they are in the game and we see how they, interact with the game modes themselves and how well and easy it is to play them and all that stuff. I am by no means kind of like dismissing Okoye as a champion. There are aspects of her that I do like a lot, but she is not and does not seem like a champion that I would personally consider grinding for or chase as a newcomer to the game. Whenever I eventually end up getting her, I hope she's good and has done well, but she definitely hasn't made me want to go above and beyond to acquire her. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all been